4 astronauts to the International Space Station in its first manned mission for NASA. It's a new galactic milestone for the firm's founder, Elon Musk, who looks poised to dominate commercial space travel despite competition from other entrepreneurs with equally deep pockets.
Here is the commercialization of space, where NASA is one customer of many customers in a very robust commercial marketplace in low Earth orbit.
Joining me now from London is entrepreneur, financier and future astronaut TRT Wimmer. He's among the world's first space tourists with Virgin Galactic. Welcome to the show. Now, SpaceX has become the first private company to transport people to space. Tell us, how important have private investments become for the sector?
The private space sector has really changed very significantly in the past 3 to 5 years. If you look at the total amount of capital that has gone into the private space sector in that period, it's equivalent to the same amount that went in the past 10 years. So there's really been a massive acceleration of capital coming into the private space sector. SpaceX, no doubt, has been a big part of this, showing that private sector can do very big impact on the cost of launches. I mean, for instance, to set a SpaceX a rocket up on the Falcon 9 a standard one would set you back $62 million. That is a cost reduction of 80 to 90% compared to how it used to do before. So very, very important impact here. NASA made a decision a number of years ago to say the space launch business, we don't want to be in that one. We're going to outsource it to private enterprise, to the likes of Boeing, to the likes of SpaceX, et cetera, so that we can focus our government dollars on deep space exploration and also on our mission to the moon and Mars and beyond.
Now, as you mentioned, not only has more capital gone into the sector from private investors, but it's actually gotten more bang for the buck. Why or how are private companies able to do this at lower costs?
Well, it's a classic situation where in the early days of space exploration, it is similar to the early days of aviation. If you go back to the late 1920s, early 30s, where airplanes were really in the hands of government officials or very high net worth individuals. Bit of the same these days with billionaires sort of forging the way, but a lot of other investors coming along. And when having private enterprise entering this sector transforms the sector tremendously, because suddenly private sector does what it does best. It lowers the cost, it increases the offering, it makes things more efficient because there's competition. You know, they got to win that contract, as opposed to just having one public entity doing this where politics and all sorts of other things suddenly start to interfere about jobs in my state and that sort of thing. So private enterprise has a big role to play here and has really proven it to be very, very successful. SpaceX, case in point, delivered 2 astronauts earlier this year up to the International Space Stations, and now 4 is en route successfully as well. That is what private enterprise can do in the space sector.
I'd love to ask you more about the economics behind it all, but you're going to be one of the world's first space tourists. Tell us, can you just buy a ticket and hop on, or is there more to it? Just walk us through that whole experience.
Going to space is not and will never be just like, let's go to the Caribbean for the holiday or something, because you will receive a lot of pressure on your body. You'll be in a weightless environment. So as a result of that, you have to go through training. I have done centrifuge training, spinning around faster and faster and completely simulating a launch into space. I've been flying fighter jets, MiG fighter jets over Russia, and also jets in the States. And I've been in a weightless environment where I've been up in an Illusion 76, nose diving down for 30, 40 seconds at a time, becoming weightless, and therefore really feeling exactly how it feels to be in a weightless environment. So I've gone through a lot of space training, and I would certainly not recommend anybody to put him or herself into a space rocket without going through training. It certainly would be a lot less enjoyable and also more dangerous.
Per Wimmer, they're walking us through all the steps that I would probably never do to take us out of this world. Now, let's take a look at some of the big stories in business.